particular story of Christ and this healing should strike you as quite disturbing, really. You look at it. You think, man, maybe Jesus is kind of a jerk, right? I mean, let's recall what we just read. There's this woman whose daughter is sick and dying, right? And then she pleads for him to heal her. And what does he do? Right? He ignores her. Right? I mean, that right there is, kind of a jerk move. Especially if you apparently have the power to heal people, right? And then we find out, that she persists, and then Jesus says to her, I came to the house of Israel, and it's not right to give the food from the master's table to the dogs. I mean, you understand what he's saying here? How insulting this is? I mean, this is a very racist comment that Jesus is making. He's saying, look, you're not a Jew, right? You're a Samaritan, or you're from the you're a Samaritan woman, and I'm not going to heal you because of your racial identity. And not only that, I'm gonna put it in words in such a way that it's very insulting. I'm gonna say that you're like a dog, and the Jews are like the children who sit at the master's table. Why would I give food for my children and put it on the floor for you, who is a dog? Okay? This is very offensive. And yet, this woman persists. What does she say? Right? She says, yet even the crumbs fall from the master's table for the dogs, right? This woman is not thwarted, right? She's not thwarted by being ignored. She's not discouraged by being insulted, right? And discriminated against. And she persists. And then Jesus, all of a sudden, it seems like he switches, right? He has this personality disorder. He switches, and all of a sudden he says to this woman, great is your faith, in all of Israel, right? And your daughter was made well from that very moment. What was Jesus Christ up to? Clearly, he was putting up roadblocks and hurdles intentionally for this woman to draw out of her a certain amount of virtue and character that was there, so that she would have to work for the miracle. And this is often the case that sometimes miracles are given freely, or in certain cases, like with the widow's only son, it's given without even being asked for. But in many cases, it's given with lots of intentional obstacles thrown in front of it. It's there's a saying that, God doesn't help those who don't help themselves. And it's true, God's not some magic charm, or some kind of Santa Claus in the sky, or some type of, dad who you just go and ask things for freely. That's not what God is interested in. What God, and clearly Jesus is interested, is our healing and our wholeness, which is as much about achieving the prize as it is about the process and the journey to get there. You see, think about your own life, or maybe think about somebody who is really great, right? Like we had Martin Luther King, right? We had his holiday come up in February. And so any kind of person that we hold up as someone who is great and admirable, their greatness is only known because of the suffering and hardship to which they had to endure. And we would never have known how great certain men and women were if it had not been for the times in which they were born, the sufferings and hardships given to them without their own asking. You can think of anyone. We can think of people, we can think of saints that we read about. We can think of kind of contemporary holy people. I think of Father Roman Braga and other holy men that we have in our own country who lived in concentration camps under communism. And it was in those hard and brutal places that the virtue that was already there in them was allowed to shine forth. Or think of a woman like Harriet Tubman or something like that, right? If it had not been for slavery, had not been for the hardships, would that kind of character and strength of that woman been able to shine so clearly? And this is kind of the irony of suffering and hardship in our lives, is that greatness is impossible without it. And great virtue is never known unless it's tested. The virtue that shines forth in this woman of Canaan is the virtue of persistence. And that is what I want to dwell on today, that particular virtue, and its essentialness in our spiritual lives and in all aspects of our life. And that is being able to persist at something. And not just have the patience, but to have that virtue which is the next level up, which is long-suffering. That is the ability to be patient and to endure in the midst of hardship and suffering. And not just to endure, but to co-opt and covert the suffering and to use it to do something good. In the anaphora of St. Basil, there's a portion in that prayer. You know, St. Basil's anaphora, we do it during Lent. We also did it during St. Basil's liturgy that we did on the eve of Theophany. It's really long. You know it when we do it. And there's a particular prayer in there that says, Lord, make the evil good by your goodness. And that is a great summary of the gospel message, is that it makes evil things good. It doesn't just wipe out and eliminate evil things. Think about it. Jesus dies on the cross and promises eternal life, and yet we all still die. Right? He's a God who came down and died, not a God who came down and didn't die and got rid of death. The whole point is that that very death of Christ became something that brought forth a tremendous amount of good. And any suffering, any hardship that we endure, if we have the virtue of long-suffering, not only can we endure it, but we can take whatever hardship or suffering that might be. In the case of the Canaanite woman, it's her son who's dying. And we can take a hardship like that and we can turn it into an opportunity to let our virtue shine forth. To let the virtue that's there be hardened by fire, like clay is in a kiln. And so, as Christians, we should not flinch or be afraid of or excessively avoid hardships and sufferings that come our way, but to see them as opportunities to forge in us the character that will last for eternity. And the character that we need and that other people around us need, because other people around you need you to be a man or a woman of character and virtue. That's what this world needs. We need each other to be men and women who work to develop those characteristics in ourselves. When I think of one of the best arguments to parents of why they should bring their children to church, I think one of them is that it's this, that church is a place where children can learn a disciplined life. Because so often we live in a world where kids are just wildly undisciplined. They don't know how to delay gratification. They don't know how to take no for an answer. And they're like little princes running the household with tyranny. And everyone just does their bidding. That's maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but it's true in some cases. We live in a world that doesn't emphasize the importance of personal disciplines, of having a disciplined life. And that's one of the things that makes perhaps Orthodox Christianity, among many other forms of Christianity, very unattractive, is that it's harder. It asks things of you. It asks you to practice a disciplined life. Because it's through acquiring these disciplines that we're able to actually acquire the character that we need. This woman, when she came to Jesus, already had that virtue. It had been there. She had formed it somehow in her life. And this particular event just made it visible for us. The truth is that we all need that character of long-suffering and patience. Because things are going to happen in our lives where we're going to have to endure an illness of ourselves. And the question is, will we have the virtue to endure it? and to endure it with joy. We're going to have loved ones who are sick and suffering, and we're going to have to care for them. Will we have long-suffering and patience like the woman of Canaan? I don't think she's here today, so I'll talk about her. Linda. Think about Linda and what she had to endure with her husband, Adrian. Right? Think about what Lorraine had to endure with her husband, Ron. The endurance that things like that take require character. The world and our family and our children need us to be men and women of character who do not flinch from suffering, but work to acquire it. So church is very much about acquiring those virtues and practicing a disciplined life. A life where we work and struggle hard to acquire these virtues. And whether it's in our spiritual life, developing habits that are good and godly and healthy, we need patience. We need this long-suffering of this persistence of the Canaanite woman. Or if it's in our relationships, enduring somebody's own moral weaknesses or addictions or their illness in their life, we need persistence. Whether it's in our careers, we need persistence. Whether it's in our relationships and learning to love people that we need persistence, like this particular woman. It's essential. We have the fast that's going to be coming up. Next Sunday is the Sunday of Zacchaeus, which is kind of the first warning sign that Lent is coming. And Lent, with fasting and prayer and all the services, is what? It's a practice in discipline, right? It's hard, it's difficult, but it acquires good things. And what do you need to get through Lent? What do you need with fasting? You need to persist at fasting, right? You need to persist and sustain your prayer. Because anything good in the spiritual life does not come by doing it once or twice half-heartedly, but by committing to it and doing it consistently over the course of your life, over years and months. And it's that kind of persistence that yields fruit in our own life, whether it's with fasting or prayers or relationships or enduring another person in our life. We need the virtues that this Canaanite woman displayed. Glory to Jesus Christ.
Glory to Christ.